So, I should probably preface this by saying my name's Via Williams. This is Wendy Papasan. She's one of my closest friends, which is why we're talking this way.
Yeah. Hi, guys. Plus, I love all you guys out there.
I know. It's a good group. So we have a lot of people joining us that we can't see on Zoom, Wendy, that are on the Facebook Live that have been anticipating this. Yeah. Yep. So what this is our Ben Kinney Wednesday webinars, and we've been doing these now for about 3 months, and we do them every single Wednesday from noon to 1:30, depends on the topic, every single Wednesday without fail, and that's Pacific time. And they're designed for you, real estate agents. That's really what they're here for. They're here for real-time, actionable tactics and scripts. We do a lot of really fun stuff with script offs. If you're some of our regulars and you're joining us, you know that we have a lot of fun on these. And my goal is for you to at least walk away with one thing. From time to time, I do a more in-depth, one-on-one interview. And that's what we're going to do today with one of my besties, Wendy Papasan. And we'll get to Wendy in a minute. I just wanted to go over a few things really quickly before we get there. Number one, Ben Kinney is offering a free class right now that is out of this world incredible. I am personally taking it, and it's a class on wealth building. And it's just phenomenal. He does this class called Win, Make, Give that obviously had to be postponed, probably canceled because of COVID. And he just decided he would do the class for free. So it's 3 on-demand, essentially, lessons a week with workbooks. So you calculate your net worth, you figure out your expenses, you figure out how much you need for retirement. I mean, it's real work, right? And it's life-changing. It's about a 3-week course. We're a week and a half into it, and it's not too late to join. So Hattie's going to post the link. It's winmakegive.com/wealth. And I just wanted to recommend it. Ben didn't ask me to recommend it, by the way. It's just been so good to take that I thought.
Well, it's helped you a lot, right?
Yeah, it's really helped me a lot.
Yeah.
I've increased my net worth pretty significantly since November, and it's just based on it's habits over time. It's not just one thing, which we'll talk about today, Wendy.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's been great, and I'm seeing some people are responding already that they're taking it and that it's been great. The second bit of news is that our podcast launched, Wendy. Yeah. So
it's pretty exciting. It's a lot of work. That's the main reason it's exciting.
We could just talk about that the whole hour.
One of our many full-time jobs.
She goes, I've been basically
that we do for free.
Oh, totally free. I've been virtually living with you ladies this whole COVID. We've been quarantining together on Zoom, don't you think?
It's been nice. It's been my happy place, if I'm honest. Yeah.
It's been really good. So what you need to do is take out your phones right now, take them out, and get on to Apple. If you have an iPhone, that little purple, it's like a circle icon. Or if you're on an Android, you can get on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts and search Empire Building and then click subscribe. And then we want you to put your phones face down after that and pay attention. But for right now,
you can't miss it. Here's what it looks like. It's bright yellow. All right.
There you go. There's the camera. Okay. That was awkward.
But I already subscribed.
One would hope, Wendy.
Yeah.
It's normally going to be weekly. We're dropping 5 episodes in 5 days for our opening week. And so I just listened to our 3rd episode this morning, and I think they're good. Am I allowed to say that? We can say that.
Well, I haven't listened to this one, but we think it's our best one because it's been a journey. Yeah. Right. And this is one of our later ones that we bumped up. So
thank you, Monica, who just said she subscribed. You're my favorite today. Thank you.
Lucy
Tucker. Oh, thank you. We love Lucy.
Of course.
Lastly, before we get to our awesome interview with Wendy, I wanted to announce something. Some of you saw it last week, but my 16-year-old son, Aiden, and I are embarking on a journey together. And that journey is we're going to read 20 books together in 20 months. And I'm bribing him a little bit. I'm not going to lie, and I'm not even ashamed of it. I'm bribing him a little bit along the way. And the reason 20 months came up is that the 20th month is going to culminate December of 2021, which happens to be the month that his college applications are due. he has been trying to talk me out of going to college. He wants to be an entrepreneur. He wants to get into real estate. He wants to start really young. So we're having this internal conversation in our house. So one of the things I challenged him to is I said, here's a list of 20 books. You know, it's an amazing list. It's like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Oh God, I can't even remember all the books. It's a great list of books.
The One Thing, I hope.
The One Thing's on there. There's so many great books on there, Wendy. Aiden personally added, he made me add Millionaire Real Estate Agent on there, which I wasn't, you know, that's.
Well, if you don't want to hire that kid, he can come work for me.
I already told my dad, I'm like, hands off, he's mine. So he's watching this right now. Aiden, you should respond. We're all fighting over you already. So here,
Aiden, I'll give you my cell phone number.
Oh, she's just ruthless. Ruthless.
You know, I'm going to pay you better than your own mom.
This is giving everybody a glimpse of your character, you know. Oh my goodness. So we are inviting you guys. So if you are a parent, a guardian, or even just have a friend or a buddy that's a, you know, a young adult, probably a teenager, we want to invite you to join us. And the format that we're going to do is we're going to just do monthly Zooms. And what Aiden and I decided together is that we would do the first part all together, and then we're going to break up in Zoom rooms, and Aiden's going to take the teenagers in one Zoom room, and I'm going to stick with the adults in another Zoom room, and then we're going to come together at the end. And I'm so excited that we can start bringing our kids into this journey, this journey. And so we're going to publish the list of books and kind of what the format is and signups for it by our next Wednesday webinar. But that shouldn't stop you from starting now and talking to your teenager or teenagers. The first book is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So you can start on it now. You don't have to wait. You know, Aiden and I are both doing a lot of Audible. Out of the 20 books, I specifically requested, there's like 5 that I said, I really want you to read a paper book of it, you know, like a real book of it. But for the most part, we're both doing Audible. It doesn't really matter. And it'll be a really loose format and just a time for you to kind of have someone else like me and Aiden give peer pressure to your kids to read some of the stuff we wish they would read, right?
I love that.
Yeah. So anyway, wanted to invite you guys.
And is it going to be monthly or?
Monthly. We're going to do 20 and 20, Wendy. So it's actually, that's not true. It's actually going to be 19 and 19 for this group because we're already a month in.
Okay.
So anyway, but it's going to go through December of 2021.
Cool.
Yeah, there you go.
I'd love to join my kids with my kids.
Yeah, we'd love to have you do it. So I'll publish all that by next week. Just didn't do it this week. So Wendy, now it's all you. So Wendy Papasan is not only one of my close friends. A lot of you guys probably know her name or know her. She's one of the most well-known names in real estate in our nation, really. Wendy has a national footprint in many, many real estate circles, right? Inman, Keller Williams, women in leadership, women in real estate. It's fantastic. And besides, you know, what you guys might know Wendy of is that she has the Papasan Properties Group. So they are in Austin, Dallas, Houston, and Minneapolis. Did I get that right?
Yeah. Well, when Austin and Dallas get so big, it will be called Alice, and you'll have been the first one to pin it. So good for you.
I'm a wordsmith today. I actually call her Wendy the wordsmith because she's pretty good at that. So she's in all those locations, but I don't know if you guys know this about her. Her and I are business partners. We have a business called Amplify with our close friends, the Dolls, and we do an event every year that's phenomenal. And we also now are co-hosts in a podcast together. But what you may not know is that Wendy started all of this as a stay-at-home mom, and her and Jay built up a net worth of millions of dollars from nothing, from absolute scratch. And I love that Wendy is so willing to talk about it and talk about her journey and just, you know, unabashedly talk about some decisions they made, some habits that they have, and, you know, how she kind of transformed from growing up in North Dakota with a certain mindset about money to where she is now. So I'm really, really happy and blessed, Wendy, that you're joining us to talk about it. What I also want to make time for today at the end is that, you know, Wendy, you're a leader of leaders. I mean, that's definitely how I view you. And this is a challenging time to lead. So I just, you know, I do want to kind of end with talking a little bit about that what are some of the challenges of leading right now, and, you know, how do you have those tough conversations with your people, and what does that look like, and what you guys are experiencing right now on your team. So we'll make time to make sure that we're addressing what's happening right now in the world around us, and certainly in our nation, and our great nation. The conversation that's happening, we'll make sure that we make time for that at the end, okay? Cool. So Wendy Papasan, this is what I'd like to start with. In over 10 years, you went from being a stay-at-home mom to having a really big empire and growing, and a huge net worth. So I'd love to start with the very beginning, because I know the story, but what kind of turned you onto this path of, hey, I want to build a net worth? Like I even know what a net worth is. What happened to get you and Jay so focused on this so early on at his career at Keller Williams?
Yeah, well, it's obviously been a gift to be at Keller Williams. Jay celebrates 20 years there in October, which is, in this day and age, that's sort of amazing to think about. Him almost being a lifer there. He spent over almost half his life there. And so when he first started, and it was when Keller Williams was honestly kind of just a weird little company. There was about 26 people there, and we had just moved from New York City. We'd both worked at larger companies, and it was just a kind of a weird little company. Mo was in charge, and they'd pray at every team meeting, and which, coming from New York, we were like, wait, what? We're in Texas now?
Like, I came to Texas.
Yeah. And nothing wrong with prayer. Big proponent of prayer, but not always at your team meetings.
Every day, but yeah.
Yeah. And so then one day, Mo said, hey, we're going to teach a class, because the amazing thing about Keller Williams is it wants its people, both the people that work at International and also every agent and every person on every agent's team, to be entrepreneurial, because they understand that's where real wealth is built, is through real estate and growing businesses. And you're never going to become truly wealthy being an employee. So they've always encouraged internally, for all of their employees to grow businesses. And so they had a class on how to read a balance sheet, right? How to read a profit and loss statement. And as luck would have it, it was supposed to be everybody in the company was supposed to go. Mo was going to teach the class. Everyone was going to become better for it, blah, blah, blah. So as luck would have it, Jay showed up, and he was the only one there. And I love several things about that story. One, Mo chose to stay. Yeah. And that for me has been very powerful. And I never mind how many people are in my classroom. I know some people won't speak if they don't have a certain number of attendees. I don't care, because I know whoever is listening in that moment is supposed to be there, and they are there to hear that message. And if Mo Anderson can do it, then I can do it too.
Wow. And
so that, and then she sat down, and it turned from a conversation on how to read a profit and loss statement on how to basically do a personal profit and loss statement. And Jay came home pretty fired up, and he said, we need to start tracking our net worth. And of course I said, what is that? And for those of you that don't know, it's all of your assets, which is everything you own, right? So your house, your car, any cash in the bank, you might have a 401k, any stocks, minus everything you owe. So all of your debt, all of your liabilities. And so pretty much right then we started tracking our net worth. And that was 19 years ago.
And, part of the great thing I love about that story is you were working at the time, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was working for the state of Texas.
That's right. State of Texas. Do you remember your income?
Yeah. I was making about $40,000. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Jay was actually the lowest paid employee at Keller Williams. And we know that because someone anonymously put a list of everybody who worked there and their salaries on his desk. And I actually, when we moved about a year ago, when we moved, I found it.
Wow.
Yeah, I found it. Yeah. So if you guys are curious to know what like Mark Willis and everyone made circa 2001,
well, I totally want that. Like,
well, yeah, but not for free. Yeah. Keller Williams Kids Can donation. Hello.
Yeah, 100%. in. Okay. So, cause that's how I am.
I know.
So as you got that mindset, Wendy, and I know that you primarily built your net worth, not always, but the gist of it was through real estate investment.
Yeah. Well, we're actually we're pretty diverse. So we have probably about 1/10 of our wealth in the stock market.
Yeah. Okay.
And we have about 1/10 of our wealth in cash. And a good portion of the rest of it is in real estate. But we also, between the two of us, Jay and I, own 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 businesses, really. So a good part of it's in business. What's that?
Is it fair to say you started in real estate, that you started the journey with real estate?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, we had a little bit of, 401k from an old job.
Yep.
And then we've just been really diligent about always maxing out our 401k over the years, and over 20 years, that gets to be a lot. And then, our first home. So immediately what we did after that was we decided we need to buy a house, right? And the bulk of at the time, we figured out that our net worth was about $2,300, which, which is pretty good for most people. It's negative. So we were like, it's not too bad. But at the same time, it was kind of disappointing because between the two of us, we feel like we'd probably worked 22 years, 23 years. And I thought, geez, 23 years of work, we got $100 a year to show for it.
Yeah.
That sucks.
So you were in your 30s.
I was right around 30.
Right around 30, and you figure you each worked, 10, 11 years.
Yeah, since I was 18, basically. Yeah, probably not full time, but since I was 22, I worked full time.
Yeah. So you bought a property, and
we bought our first house. We lived there for. Well, no, actually we bought our first house. We thought we paid too much for it. And it was kind of a weird house, and still is a weird house. And if I'd known what I'd known today, I probably wouldn't have bought it, but I don't know. I didn't know. So we bought it anyway. And we put 3.5% down. We borrowed the money from Jay's parents to actually make that purchase. And we lived in it for 3 years. There's only one bathroom. And then I got pregnant. So we decided, if we want to have a good marriage, we probably need at least another half bath, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So then we moved out, and what was interesting was our first tenants, they pulled up in a BMW, and they made more money than us.
Isn't that fascinating? And they were renting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Fascinating. So you bought your second house. The reason I said house hacked is I always call it that when you buy a house and hold it, and then you move on to the next.
Yeah.
So you buy it as a primary residence, right?
Yeah.
Hold it.
I think a lot of people think house hacking is when you buy like a duplex and you get
fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you get a renter or something like that. So
that's fair. So, so then what happened after that? Walk us through, just a quick overview of, because I want everyone, Wendy, I want everyone to kind of see the progression, because it was slow and then fast. I think it was.
Yeah. So in 2004, basically I quit my job then because I had Gus, and I never have been one to just like sit around all day. So I had little side hustles and stuff that I did. And then in 2005, I think the Millionaire Real Estate Investor came out. And by that time I was pregnant again. Our kids are really close together. They're 15 months apart. And so we decided we were going to do our first flip. And so Dave Jenks, who's the co-author of the Millionaire Real Estate Investor, me, Jay, and Heather Russo, who was in the research department there, all bought a flip on the east side of Austin. We paid $50,000 for it. And we flipped it. We made a ton of mistakes. We put in a ton of sweat equity, mostly me, because everybody else had a full-time job. And then we ended up busting our plumbing because we got a bad foundation company, and we ended up making maybe $500. So we sold it.
If you would have held that house, how much would it be worth today?
Well, actually, a couple of years ago, I went and I showed a property for one of my agents, and it was like about 300 next door. Yeah. There was a house next door that was about 300. So yeah, oops.
I've been like casually looking online in the Austin real estate market because my son goes to UT Austin, and I can tell you there's nothing for 300 anymore.
Yeah.
And really so I have a feeling.
Yeah, anywhere central.
Yeah.
Definitely nothing for 50. So
No.
Yeah. So that was, right after I had my kids. So it was 2006. At the time, we were kind of sort of remodeling our 1972 ranch house. It had bright yellow countertops and carpet in the bathroom. And, I was kind of painting it room by room while the kids were taking a nap and all that kind of stuff. And we were just very thrifty. I'm just very thrifty by nature. And so then we started to buy some rentals because I guess I really needed more stuff to do during the day. And it was great because I could drag my little ones with me, and we'd try to buy a property that was kind of homely. So I'll put a little bit of money into the remodel and then bump the rent up and rent it out. And so now we've got 10 properties. It took us about 15 years to get there.
So out of that 15 years, I'm curious, if like your last 5, I'm just picking a number, your last 5 in the 15-year span, when were the last 5 acquired from your what to what?
So we had a couple, like really when I was really building my business, I just felt like I was didn't have the bandwidth to take on much else. So I would say we bought our last one about 2 years ago. So we're due for another one. Right now we're just waiting, to see. And then before that was probably 2 years before that, probably like every 2 years, honestly.
What's interesting to me, Wendy, is this spans the downturn, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this was happening during the downturn. Did you have cash to invest at the last downturn? Did you acquire a lot of them during that time?
No, a lot of our properties we either bought with a partner because we didn't have any money, right? Remember, Jay was, at that time probably wasn't the lowest paid employee, but it was, he wasn't. Yeah. He hadn't had as much opportunity there, and I wasn't making any money, right? And so. Yeah, so we didn't really. And one of the properties we still own, we bought with a partner. They live in New York City. They've actually never owned a home, and they had about $25,000 to invest. So I found a property on Craigslist, and so I called them up and I said, "Hey, you want to buy a house with us and give us the money?" And so we did that. We bought another house. Actually, I was just there yesterday. It's a rental property, needs a little renovation. We bought that with a partner, and then we ended up buying them out. We bought a duplex with Dave Jenks, which we ended up having to sell. It was my first listing, actually, in 2009. And so a lot of them were acquired with really no money and all sweat equity on my part. I mean, I was, I'm a hard worker. If you're reading that book, Grit, they talk about something called sisu, right? It's this Finnish word for basically for grit. And it's like where I'm from is a lot of Scandinavians, and I just feel like that describes me very well. I have a lot of people in my family who are farmers. My great grandmother lived to be 100, and my grandmother was 15 years old with 10 brothers and sisters when my great grandfather died, and she and my great grandmother, ran the farm together. And so that's just me. I've always been very thrifty, hard worker. Yeah.
Well, the reason, thank you for just talking and sharing all those stories. I know your stories really well. And the reason I wanted to let you go just then and talk is because you laid about 4 or 5 nuggets for all of us, right? I'm hearing you bought properties with partners when you couldn't afford them on your own, number 1. Number 2, I'm hearing you bought them out later, right? So it's a really brilliant use of leverage. Mm-hmm. To use other people's capital. And, OPM, other people's money, is really a beautiful, beautiful thing. Right. And the other thing is that you're thrifty, and you talked about that, you really were not into instant gratification. Mm-hmm. Because I was. And so here we have 2 opposites, right? And you have a much higher net worth than me. So I say that in the most, complimentary way. I really do.
You probably have a better shoe collection.
I do. But I wish I didn't.
Yeah.
I wish I had a better house.
Especially now, right? Yeah. What's the point of a good shoe collection right now?
Yeah, I'm on a journey, and we all are. And in fact, for a lot of you guys, watching, I am not a spring chicken anymore. And it's okay to start wherever you are. I'm really excited about I have a 20-year net worth and growth plan that I'm really excited about. It's good. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
So Wendy, at this point, do you have a philosophy for, what kind of, house, are there any formulas, anything that you can kind of talk about that would, help all of our listeners right now with a criteria for buying investment property?
Sure. I would say the last two we bought were a lot better than the first, like the house I bought off Craigslist was so cute, built in 1939. Don't buy a house like that. One of the bedrooms doesn't have a closet in it. And yet all of the mistakes I made, we just held on to them, and they've all done very well. So the nice thing about the real estate market is that it generally makes any decision 10 years later look pretty good. And so our criteria now is minimum 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. I like a brick exterior home, or in Austin, you can get a limestone home because you don't have to paint it. I got several homes now that, I'm going to have to pay $7,000 or $5,000 to paint the whole exterior. And then, something in a decent school district. Outside of the central core, because the central core in Austin's always been very expensive. And for me, when I was buying properties, my kids were little. They were literally newborns, and I didn't want to drive very far, and I wouldn't have to worry about the nap. So convenience was a factor for me. And we could have made a lot more income had we bought duplexes or, multifamily, but that just seemed like a lot more hassle. And so really what it has been, it's pretty boring. It's a get rich slow scheme is what it is. Mm-hmm. And over time, we've just seen our net worth build. So
would you recommend duplexes though, or triplexes?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. We owned a duplex with Dave Jenks, and then he wanted to sell, and it was literally in 2009, and we could not get it refinanced. We didn't have the capital, and that just kills me because it was like in my neighborhood, and we got such a bargain when we bought it. And, but we don't get to, we've had plenty of investments that were better than others, let's say.
I'm so happy I sold that real estate asset back then, says no one ever. Ever, right? And then also says no one ever, I'm really excited I didn't buy that house 20 years ago. Like no one says that, right?
Yeah, so, exactly. All realtors who've been in the business for a while drive around town like, oh, I remember.
Like, I should have bought 20 of them. What was wrong with me? Ugh. So thank you very much for sharing all that. I think it's really useful for everybody to kind of hear that you walk through that process, because they see you now, Wendy, and they might go, that's unattainable. I can't do that. But you were literally making 0 income when this started.
Yeah. And it's work, guys. That's the thing. It's a lot of work. And I don't want to share all the horror stories because I don't want to turn anyone off. But I can remember going to a little house that we bought on Blythewood. It needed to be cleaned. I would do all the make ready cleaning, right? I would bring my children and I would get down on the floor and I would scrub the floors, with a sponge. Wow. And I was cleaning out this one particular property, and someone had left it. This is just so gross. I can't believe I'm sharing it. But they had left a coffee can full of bacon fat under the sink. And you can imagine it was Texas in the summer, and I picked it up and it was just full of cockroaches. Oh. And I was picking it up to throw it into a garbage can, and the cockroaches just run out. It's so gross, guys. Just ran everywhere. And my kids are playing in the other room, and I am screaming, because of it. And yet I put it in the garbage can, cleaned it up, and it was fine. You know what I mean? I didn't die.
Yeah, that's definitely a fine thing.
Yeah. So it's just, that's gross, but that's the reality of success is that it has a lot it's just hard, and it's gross, and it's messy, and it's not fun. And then eventually, I earned the right to get someone to do the make ready And then I earned the right to not paint them myself, you know, and had I known what I've known now, I mean, I probably would have done things different. Like I didn't really understand leverage at a high level until I started my real estate business, if I'm honest. Because, you know, like I think about my great grandmother who lived to be 99. I mean, she shoveled her own walk until she was probably like 97.
Yeah.
And this is, you know, Fargo, North Dakota, right? This is like 6 feet of snow. This is not a little bit of snow. And that's just like, you didn't get a housekeeper. You don't do any of that. So I just didn't really know what I didn't know. And we saved a lot of money, and I was able to put that money back into buying more stuff.
Well, it's all part of the journey. So let's transition into your real estate team, because that's also something I want to dive into. Again, you know, you did over $2 million in you know, gross commission income last year. And you know, it's just some people, Wendy, who hear that, who are maybe just getting started, or they're making $100,000 a year, $50,000 a year, $30,000 a year. That feels unattainable. But when you started, it's amazing to me. Your goal was what?
It was $15,000.
Yeah, you entered it, and your goal was $15,000. You probably, I'm guessing, had just no vision of where you are now.
Well, actually, I think it was because I thought, because I was really into investing, and so my son started kindergarten, and I thought, well, I could probably get my real estate license, and $15,000 I could buy another investment property. That's literally what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Is like, that's all I need. I'll get another one, and then I'll just make 15,000. I'll get another one, and so then I ended up making $85,000 that year.
It's amazing.
It was great, which is incredible, because the most I ever made working for the state was about 42. So I about doubled my income in sales.
And then when did you hire your first employee?
So I got a contract to close, like part-time, just like a per transaction basis right away. Because, you know, my daughter, first of all, just didn't appeal to me. And then I had the investment properties, and, you know, of course, Jay is a busy executive. So, he was pretty used to coming home and having the house all buttoned up, you know?
Yep.
And so I forget where I was going with that.
Well, so you had a contract TC.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I had a contract TC. And then about 18 months in, I hired someone about 30 hours a week.
Okay.
And I had saved up, you know, it was very scary. It was really, really terrifying to think about hiring that first person. It seems so easy now, you know, that's the thing, is like, I've done so many hard things in my life that have seemed so hard at the time, and now they just feel so easy. And that hiring process just was very, very scary, thinking about, wow, I have somebody else's livelihood there. You know, she had a family, she had 2 children, you know, Courtney, she's my neighbor. And so, but I saved up enough money to pay her for 90 days. And I thought, well, if I'm not making her salary back, then I just need to go back to the drawing board anyway. So,
you know, you and I just recorded a podcast episode, and we talked about how doing hard things is a muscle.
Yeah.
And it needs to be worked just like exercise, and you actually build stamina up on that muscle.
Yeah, I am the poster child for that. And actually, I didn't bring this up in the podcast, but it crossed my mind, and I just didn't have an opportunity to say it. But you know, I've always wanted to travel. You know, I never got to travel overseas. When I was a kid, we would always drive across country. We took these long driving trips, and traveling is really a passion of mine. And so I could never, like, I was a work study student. I paid my way through college, and I could never afford to do study abroad. And all my friends did study abroad. And so I said, well, I could go travel after I graduate. And so I got a work visa, and I went to England, and I had never been overseas before. I was so scared. And I remember just laying in the dorm room of this hostel for a whole day.
Wow.
I just laid there in the bed. And because I was so scared. I couldn't even go outside. I was like so scared.
Wow.
And then I got up. So that's just me. It's like, you just do it anyway, you know?
That's a great story. I've never heard that story. I've heard the dead body story about your trip, but I haven't heard that story.
Yeah.
That's for another time.
Yeah.
What do you, so you made 85K your first year. About 6 months after that, you kind of you went into the realm of hiring a salaried employee. You know, walk us through a little bit what that team progression looked like, Wendy.
Yeah. So, I sold 18 houses that first year. And then I sold 23 the next year. And then my business started to get pretty busy. And so then I thought, gosh, I really need someone who could be more of like a leader in my organization and take charge. And so that's when I hired the great and powerful Roz. Some of you know her. Amazing. She helped me build PPG from the ground up. And she followed me around and documented all my systems and really was an amazing helper to me. And then she grew also, and she became our director of operations and eventually started our expansion team in St. Louis. And now she works with the amazing Sarah Tadlock there. And so then that year, actually I hired Roz, I sold 55 houses and I made about $300,000 that year.
Wow.
And then the next year I made about $500,000. And then I went from $500,000 to, I think, $1,964,000. Yeah. So it was a really big leap. And so, you know, hiring good people along the way. So hiring Roz, and then Roz hired Jamie, who they both worked for me for many years. And then I had a couple buyer's agents, and then, you know, Jen became my lead buyer specialist, and she's phenomenal talent. And she also helped me grow my business in a huge way, just phenomenal sales talent. And so then we were a pretty small, tight team, you know.
She became your listing specialist after that.
She did eventually. Yeah, she was that. And she probably sold about, you know, at one point 80 homes.
Amazing.
And I'm really proud to say that we've got someone on our team who's probably on track to do that this year too. So yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's great. Yep.
Are any of your team members following on your building, you know, are they building their net worth? Are they following your lead on that?
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, you know, Jay and I were always saying like, we want to make millionaires. I think we copied that from Ben. And I think
I'm the cause of this, actually. I'm going to take credit for this.
Yeah.
Because you asked him when I went to work for him.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, that's how Keller Williams started, is that they wanted, you know, basically the reason Gary wrote The Millionaire Real Estate Investor was for his people, right? He's like, I want you all to take advantage of wealth, the opportunity to build wealth through real estate. And so then that became a goal for me. It's like, well, I unlocked the secret, you know, I'd love to be able to share it with other people. And so a couple of years ago, I said, well, first of all, I asked Ben, you know, because when you were about to go work for him, I said, Ben, how many millionaires have you made anyway? And he didn't know. So I was like, And so I said, well, we can do better than that. And we had sort of tracked, you know, just some like mentors, you know, casual mentors that we had. And so then I said, well, let's be a little bit more proactive. So then I went to speak in Lubbock, Texas, and Tim Minix, who's the OP there, very talented OP. He was kicking off his wealth building class, and he had created the Millionaire Club, and they had a contract and everything they had to sign. And so I thought, oh, this is perfect. I'm going to steal that. So like most of my good ideas at Keller Williams are all just ripped off. Yeah. So I changed it from Millionaire Club to a Hot Millionaire Club, because I mean, who doesn't want to be a hot millionaire? And so, yeah, so about 2 years now, we've been doing that on our team. And I have multiple people now who have investment properties. In fact, in Slack this morning, Warren, who's one of my top agents, he's about 30. He owns 3 rental properties. He just bought that flip that's been on his personal goals for this year. And we track our net worth every single month at Hot Millionaire Club. We have a net worth goal. We talk about money like very openly and honestly, which I think is just, that's the best part of it, is that we can have a conversation about money. And, you know, we have people on our team who've been hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt and gotten out of debt. And it's just really powerful to be able to see it, right? If you're $100,000 in debt, you've got somebody else who works right beside you who's not in debt anymore, you're like, wow, okay. Otherwise, when you're $100,000 in debt, you're just like, I'll never get there. There's no way I'll ever get there. And so just having that circle around you is just super powerful.
You know, Ben tells a story of when he started tracking his net worth, he was negative $500,000 negative. And wow. He was walking down the street, and, you know, someone was, a homeless person was, you know, had a sign up asking for money, and he could see like $1.50 in the bucket or in the pan. Mm-hmm. And he thought to himself, that guy is over $500,000 higher in net worth than I am right now.
Yeah. Wow. Whoa.
It's a powerful thought. You know, I think of the vision of the couple pulling into your rental property in their BMW. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Made more than you is powerful to me. Really powerful.
Yeah. Well, I can remember when we'd moved into our new house after we moved out of that first little rental property, and we needed a new couch, and because it just didn't like fit in the house for whatever reason. And so basically we've got a hand-me-down from Gary, which sounds like it's nice, but it wasn't. But before that, I was looking on Craigslist for a couch, and I saw this beautiful red leather couch on Craigslist, you know, back when Craigslist was a thing. And it turned out it was Jay's assistant selling it, because she had spent all this money buying this red leather couch.
Oh.
And it was just ironic, right? It was like, oh, here's the boss buying it used on Craigslist to get a deal, and you have to sell it because you were in over your head. So.
Yeah, that's incredible. What do you think drives you? Is it just that satisfaction of, like you said, seeing the person next to you going from negative, you know, 200,000 to positive $50? Like, what drives you for the Hot Millionaires Club and to go around the country and, you know, leave your family and go around the country and teach about it? What drives that?
Well, I really believe that, you know, Keller Williams has been a huge gift for me. And I have been able to help my family a lot, not just my children, but a lot of other people in my family who need my help. And I don't know. It's just been a progression for me. I wish I could say that I had at age 38, you know, but my big why when I started my real estate business was to save money on investment properties. Yeah. And so somehow that morphed into my personal mission, which is to empower and inspire big thinking leaders to create lives of abundance. And so for me, that's why I wake up every day. And that's why I'm involved with the things that I do, because I know I can make a big impact that way. And money is a big part of it. You know, money is good for the good it can do. And I think about right now, and I think about if everybody we know just had $10,000 in savings, but most people don't. Yeah. And it's not because, it's not for a lack of want, it's for a lack of they just don't know, right?
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah.
I find most of us, you know, when we get started in whatever we're doing, but say real estate, most big whys are more self-focused, which is a natural progression, you know, mm-hmm. to get you where you want to go in life, right? So that you can hit your goals. I find that for most of us on this journey, right, that, you know, to enlightenment, for lack of a better word, that there's a point where it morphs into other people, where our focus turns from ourselves to other people, you know, somewhere along that journey, certainly with a lot of people I know. So
yeah, well, I think it's a part of aging. You know, I think at a certain point when you're younger, you tend to be pretty selfish. And I mean, I'm still a pretty selfish person at the end of the day, because I certainly get a lot of, you know, pleasure and joy out of what I do. So there's a certain amount of selfishness there. And yet, you know, I get a lot of joy in, you know, seeing other people succeed and grow and, I want more for everyone because it is possible, right? It's like when someone gives you the gift, you want to be able to share it with everyone.
Yeah. Hey, Wendy, can you repeat your personal mission one more time?
Sure. To empower and inspire big thinking leaders to create lives of abundance. To empower and inspire big thinking leaders. Yeah, to create lives of abundance.
So what's interesting to me about, you having a mission statement that transitions really well into your work with Keller Williams Kids Can and Quantum Leap. Cause I know I sent my oldest to Austin last year. Remember that? Remember me?
Yeah. Yes. That was really fun. I got to hang out with Michael and Corinne's son.
Yeah, and you've done a ton of nonprofit work. You've raised almost $1 million, I think, for your different charities.
Yeah, in fact, I just had a Heroes for Children. We do a big charity poker tournament, and we're having to pivot this year and do some kind of virtual event.
That is one of the best events ever, by the way.
I know. Well, hopefully everyone can go now if it's virtual, right? Across the country.
Online poker, is that what we're going to do?
Possibly. Yeah, we're talking about it.
Is that a little weak, maybe?
Yeah, we'll see.
Glad I got that out of you.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate we appreciate everything you do. Let's talk about leadership right now, Wendy. Is leadership tough right now?
Yeah, it's exhausting. I'm tired. I'm sad. It's hard. Yeah.
Has it been, what have the last couple of weeks look like for you versus the last 3 months?
Well, I am someone who pivots pretty well. So it's been, easier on me than I think a lot of other people, but it's a lot. It's, it's working twice as much for half the result. And, I'm not a natural, I don't get a lot of satisfaction out of overworking myself.
Yeah.
But I do have a lot of grit. So if I need to get it done, I'll get it done. And so that's what it's been. It's just been a lot of like grinding it out. And and then it's just like this past week has been very sad. It's been super sad. And we had a good conversation at our sales meeting today with our team, just talking about like, how do we navigate it? How do we have conversations? How do we talk to people? How do we lead our people through this? I mean, I feel blessed to have Gary Keller, who's kind of showing me the way personally. I'm a models-based person, so I like to know what to do and then I'll implement real fast. So that's a blessing for me, but it's hard.
How did you bring up that, the tough conversations today at your meeting? What did that look like?
Well, yesterday, I guess it was yesterday, I read Gary's letter, which I thought was really great and powerful. And then today we talked about, we're talking about our book club. And so we're looking at reading a couple of books. One is How to Be Anti-Racist. I think that's the title of it. And then the other one's called White Fragility. Mm-hmm. And so just having really a conversation around that. And then, just really, our team is pretty, we're very open. I'm a pretty vulnerable leader. I mean, I'm an oversharer. And I cry, during our meetings sometimes. And that's just who I am. And so we were able to have a pretty vulnerable conversation. We have a partner in Minneapolis. And that, of course, this is where it all started. Yeah. And this is where George Floyd was murdered. And, so she's very, very, she's feeling it, and they're having lots of conversations. And, at the end of the day, she's a suburban white woman. And it's just we're struggling with what to say. And at the end of the day, what we do is we continue to do what we've always done. Realtors are the keepers of community, right? We are the hub in the spoke. And we need to be there for everyone in our communities, and we need to reach out, and we need to continue to do our care calls. And the care calls have a different timbre and they have a different tone, but the intent and the heart is still the same, which is, how are you doing? How can I help you? How are you feeling? I'm here to listen to you. I care about you. Mm-hmm. Can I do anything for you? And that means a lot. Whether you're sitting at home alone, because you've been quarantining by yourself for 60 days, or if you are, the mother of 4 Black boys, like my friend Kimber, our friend Kimber. It's like people just need a space to talk. And Kimberly, who's my Minneapolis partner, she's actually Alyssa, who's my expansion partner in Houston. She's started a book club in her neighborhood, and she had about 40 people sign up for her book club. Wow. Just to have that, because I think people need they need to have a space to express themselves. And I think there's so much hate and fear and anxiety right now everywhere, and people just need to have, it's like kind of like group therapy,
Yeah. Ben Kinney sent me an article last night to read, and it had 4 or 5 book recommendations on there. I know that someone asked you to share those books again. Wendy and I can both post those into both Facebook. Well, I guess Facebook, into the Pivot Shift Ahead page.
I mean, one's called, I think they're number 1 and number 2 on Amazon, honestly, right now. So one's called White Fragility. And then the second one is something like How to Be Anti-Racist or something like that.
And I'll send the ones that Harvard Business Review looked at. Ben and I will take a look at. But, Ben, Wendy, back to the tears comment.
Jennifer said they're sold out.
Oh, yeah. Which is good. Yeah. I'm glad.
Yeah,
I'm glad.
That's great.
And, we'll maybe Audible. I haven't checked. Audible doesn't sell out.
Or Kindle.
Yeah, or Kindle. That's true. Those don't sell out. They're digital. It's okay to not be okay. And I think that it's okay to show our people that we don't have all the answers and that there are tears. And I think it's okay to just ask our people, how can we help? What can we do? We may not be the one to understand this, but, we want to, and we want to be proactive and do the right thing. It's okay.
I think it's okay to be happy and sad at the same time.
Yeah.
It's actually a conversation I had with my son today, because his school has a sister school in Ecuador right now, and he's learning Spanish, and they have a hurricane, and he has been getting back into rowing because he's been not able to row, and so yesterday it just was a very hard workout, and this morning was a very hard workout, and he's like, Mom, I hate to say this, but he's like, I'm so happy that Ecuador is having a hurricane because we're having internet issues. But he's like, I feel terrible saying it. Yeah. And so I just said, Gus, it's okay to be happy and sad at the same time. Of course, you don't want anything to happen to your friends in Ecuador. And at the same time, it's like our podcast launching this week. I know for me, it's been a big conflict. And, yesterday I posted on Instagram because I'm up at 5 a.m. So I posted right away, and my Instagram feed looked like it normally did.
I did the same thing, Wendy. And then the blackout happened. And
and then by 7:30, somebody was like, Wendy. And so I deleted it. And so it's okay to be happy and sad at the same time, because it's a very sad time for our country. And racism is endemic. I was talking to my trainer this morning. She's from Finland, and she's been over 80 countries. And she's like, I've never been to a country more racist than this country. Wow. And that's a hard pill to swallow. Her husband's African American, and it's so sad. I don't want that. I want more for our country.
So what can we do as leaders, Wendy?
Well, I think, it's interesting because I was having this conversation with someone on my team yesterday, and my instinct is always toward action. And she was really pushing me towards conversation. And I was like, well, I already donated to a couple of organizations that are, that support anti-racism and blah, blah, blah. I did all this, and I'm doing this, and I'm reaching out to people, and I'm doing. And she just turned to me and she said, Wendy, conversation is action. Mm-hmm. Conversation is actually what we need to do right now. And whether that looks like an open conversation like this, or a book club in your neighborhood, or reaching out to your friends, whether they be Black or white or whoever they are, and really saying like, let's have a conversation about this. And what can we do? Can we, let's vote, right? Yeah. Voting is huge. And, if you have the money to donate to organizations that are already doing a great job, if protesting is your thing, because most substantial change in this country has taken place with, action, a lot of action, but then also sustained conversation over time through our systems. And so it's like, we have to do both.
Susan Scott of Fierce Conversations says the conversation is the relationship. Mm-hmm. And I agree. This is a long game and it's not going to be solved overnight. I am super grateful for the conversation right now.
Yeah. Well, and I know, and I know, we're in an industry where only about 5% of realtors are African-American. It's a very low percentage. And, I just love what Keller Williams has done, supporting Black businesses. They started a task force, and I'm privy to those conversations, listening to Jay, and they're looking around their headquarters and thinking like, wow, we haven't really done a good job of diversity. And we work, they've got two industries there, basically technology and real estate, where they're pretty white, or Asian really. And so, it really starts with everyone, right? With everyone.
What I think we need to do as leaders is to continue to push the conversation forward and to be mindful of vendors, vendors of color, people we hire of color, and to just, to give people, to enfranchise them.
Yeah.
And to give them the opportunity. And it's a bad crisis and a good conversation.
Yeah.
And I know that change, whether it be personal, systemic, organizational, no change happens unless we have a real or perceived crisis. It's just the way life is.
Well, and I think about, the Me Too movement. And there's probably a lot of women that are listening on this call right now. And I know for me, that wasn't a surprise because I've had so many conversations with my female friends about sexual assault. And I know for a lot of my male friends, they were shocked. Yeah. They were, Jay was almost in tears. Or he was in tears. And that produced a good result.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I know you are so busy, and so I really appreciate it. And for all of you joining, thank you. Thank you guys for participating, for joining the conversation. And hopefully at some point today, Wendy and I can jump on Facebook and answer any questions that you want to put on there. If for those of you on Zoom, if you do have follow-up conversation you want to have, you can hop on the Shivit. What is it?
Pivot, Shift Ahead.
I always say Shivit. The Pivot, Shift Ahead Facebook group. That's open to anyone. You have to get approved to get in. It's a quick approval, and anyone's welcome on that. And we welcome the continued conversation. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you all, and have a phenomenal day, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Start building your wealth.
Bye.